Noah Grayson, a wealthy but distant businessman, meets Marcus, a young boy who stops to help him with a flat tire, asking for nothing in return. This simple encounter leads Noah into a humble world of family, resilience, and generosity, pushing him to confront his own values and question what success really means. As Noah's bond with Marcus and his mother Celeste grows, he faces challenges that will transform his relationships, his career, and his sense of purpose. But will he risk everything he's built for a life that truly matters? If you enjoy stories of hope, connection, and change, comment, and subscribe to join us for more. Let's begin. Noah Grayson pushed open the glass door to his penthouse apartment, the sharp echo of his footsteps bouncing off the pristine marble floors. The room, with its floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, boasted elegance and success, symbols Noah had chased and claimed for himself. At 42, he had the kind of wealth most people dreamed of: luxury cars, an apartment with a view that spanned the city, a custom-designed wardrobe. These were the markers of a life achieved. But as he loosened his tie and set his briefcase down, he felt an undercurrent of dissatisfaction gnawing at him. In the quiet of the apartment, he was alone, save for the muted city hum and the soft glow of sunset reflecting off distant glass towers. It was a silence Noah was well accustomed to, but tonight it seemed louder. Rachel, his wife, had likely taken their daughter, Madison, out to one of her countless extracurriculars, gymnastics or music lessons. Madison, now 16, was at that age where her world revolved around friends and activities, with little space left for family time. They saw each other in passing most evenings, a routine as polished and predictable as the rest of Noah's life. He poured himself a scotch and sank into the leather armchair by the window, staring out over the city. From up here, the city looked smaller, as though he could wrap his hands around it. And in many ways, Noah had spent his life rising through corporate ranks, turning small companies into giants, and negotiating deals that added commas to his bank account. Yet the feeling he had tonight was not one of triumph, but of hollowness. Noah didn't often allow himself to dwell on these moments, but tonight was different. The view outside reminded him of his younger self, a young man with grit and ambition but lacking resources, a man who had once looked up at city skyscrapers as symbols of possibility. He thought of the sacrifices he'd made, the friendships left behind, the family gatherings he'd missed, the late nights that had turned into years of long hours. What had it all been for? His phone buzzed, pulling him from his thoughts. It was a calendar reminder of an upcoming corporate retreat he was scheduled to attend. A 2-hour drive, several days of handshakes, and endless discussions about performance targets and quarterly growth. Part of him wanted to cancel it. Yet, the other part, the side that had driven him to succeed relentlessly, insisted he show up. With a sigh, he finished his drink and rose, casting one last look at the city below before retreating into the dimly lit halls of his penthouse. A man surrounded by luxury, yet feeling unmoored. The following morning, Noah set off in his luxury SUV for the retreat. The drive took him away from the city's familiar noise, replacing it with a serene silence punctuated only by the low hum of the engine. Rows of trees lined the road, and fields stretched out, broken only by the occasional farmhouse or gas station. Noah found himself distracted by the rhythm of the road, the sameness of each mile blurring into a meditative repetition. The retreat loomed in his mind, a reminder of a life he had carefully built, a life that, for all its success, felt strangely insubstantial. Suddenly, a sharp jolt snapped him back to reality. His SUV jerked to the side, followed by a sickening thud. Noah clenched the steering wheel, feeling a shudder ripple through the vehicle. The unmistakable sound of a flat tire filled the air, a steady thump, thump, thump as the car wobbled on the road. He cursed under his breath, guiding the car onto the gravel shoulder and bringing it to a stop. As he stepped out, he was hit by the dry summer heat, the sun bearing down on him. He squinted, feeling the warmth seep into his suit jacket. The tire was in bad shape, shredded rubber hanging loosely from the rim. With a frown, he pulled out his phone, hoping to call for roadside assistance. But as he checked his signal, He realized he was in a dead zone, far from any help. The road stretched out on either side, empty and quiet, flanked by tall grass and an endless sky. Noah glanced back down at the tire, feeling a surge of frustration. In his world, he was accustomed to immediate solutions, a team at his fingertips to handle issues as they arose. Here, on this deserted stretch of road, he was just another stranded driver with no resources to draw on. He hadn't changed a tire himself in over 2 decades. "Perfect," he muttered, slipping his phone back into his pocket. He could feel sweat beading on his forehead, a reminder of his discomfort in this unfamiliar situation. There was no one here to solve the problem for him, no assistant to call or chauffeur to wave over. Just him, his flat tire, and the quiet vastness of the open road. Noah stood by his car, his mind racing with options, none of which seemed feasible without a signal or a toolkit. Just as he began resigning himself to a long, sweltering wait, he noticed a figure moving toward him in the distance. A small, dark shape emerging on the horizon, growing closer with each step. As the figure approached, Noah could make out a teenager, no older than 15, wearing a worn-out t-shirt and carrying a small backpack slung over one shoulder. The boy's hair was tousled, his face covered with a faint sheen of sweat from walking under the hot sun. The boy stopped a few feet away from Noah, his expression open and curious. "You got a flat?" he asked, looking directly at Noah with a straightforwardness that caught him off guard. Noah nodded, unsure of how to respond. The boy seemed so calm, unfazed by the sight of a stranded stranger in a suit. "Yeah," Noah said, his voice uncharacteristically hesitant. I don't have a way to fix it." The boy gave a small nod, glancing at the tire and then back at Noah. "I can help. My dad taught me how to change one of these." He set his backpack down, pulling out a pair of gloves and a small toolkit. Surprised, Noah took a step back, watching as the boy knelt by the tire, assessing the damage with practiced ease. "Do you have a spare?" he asked, glancing up. "Yes, I think it's under the trunk floor." Noah opened the back of the SUV, lifting the compartment to reveal the spare tire and jack. He felt a pang of embarrassment at his own helplessness. Yet there was also a strange sense of relief that someone else was handling the problem. The boy got to work, loosening the lug nuts with steady hands. His movements were efficient, a rhythm born of familiarity rather than rushing. Noah watched in silence, marveling at the ease with which this teenager, this stranger, was handling a task that felt insurmountable to him. "You're really doing this," Noah murmured, almost to himself. The boy looked up, offering a small smile. "Just a tire, mister. No big deal." He wiped his forehead with the back of his hand, his expression relaxed and focused. For him, this was just another small task, a routine part of life. Noah found himself admiring the boy's confidence, the quiet self-sufficiency that seemed so out of reach in his own world. Here was someone who didn't rely on assistance or elaborate solutions, who saw a problem and fixed it with his own 2 hands. It was a kind of independence that Noah hadn't known in years. After a few minutes, the boy had the new tire in place, tightening the bolts and checking his work with a practiced eye. When he finished, he stood, brushing the dust from his jeans. "All done," he said, offering Noah a thumbs up. Noah blinked, still absorbing the fact that the problem had been solved so effortlessly. He reached into his pocket, pulling out his wallet. He took out several crisp bills and held them out to the boy. "Here, for your trouble. I really appreciate the help." But the boy shook his head, taking a step back. "No, I don't need that. Just wanted to help. You look like you could use it." Noah was taken aback, his hand hovering midair. In his world, every favor, every task came with a price. People expected something in return, a bonus, a promotion, a favor down the line. Yet here was this boy, refusing payment for his kindness. "Are you sure?" Noah asked, trying to keep the confusion out of his voice. The boy simply nodded. "Yep, you don't need to pay me, mister. Just take care of yourself." And with that, he picked up his backpack, slung it over his shoulder, and gave a small wave before turning to walk back down the road. Noah watched him go, feeling a strange mixture of gratitude and discomfort. In his hand, the money felt strangely out of place, a reminder of a system that didn't apply here with this boy. He climbed back into his SUV, slipping the bills back into his wallet. As he started the engine, he glanced into the rearview mirror, watching as the boy's figure grew smaller on the horizon until it disappeared entirely. The encounter left him unsettled, a lingering question echoing in his mind. Why would someone offer help without expecting anything in return? As Noah resumed his drive, he found his thoughts drifting back to the boy. He replayed the scene over and over, dissecting each moment, each word. The boy's refusal of the money, his easy smile, the way he'd worked without hesitation. All of it felt foreign to Noah. He thought about his own life, the way he approached people, the transactional nature of his relationships. He was a man who understood deals, who built his success on exchanges of power and wealth. The idea of offering help without expecting anything in return was so far outside his experience that he couldn't quite process it. The memory stirred something in him, a restlessness that gnawed at the edges of his mind. As the city skyline came back into view, he felt a growing urge to find the boy again, to understand this strange encounter that had left him questioning everything he'd built. By the time he arrived back at his penthouse, the memory of the boy had embedded itself firmly in Noah's thoughts. He went through his usual routines: dinner with Rachel, a quick chat with Madison, a late-night review of work emails. But the usual satisfaction was absent. His mind kept returning to the road, to the boy's quiet confidence and refusal of money. As he lay in bed that night, staring up at the ceiling, he realized he had never encountered someone like the boy before. And for reasons he couldn't fully explain, he felt compelled to find him, to see if there was something deeper behind the boy's kindness. Maybe it was a simple favor, or maybe it was the start of something he didn't yet understand. All he knew was that he couldn't let it go. Back in his penthouse, Noah went about his evening with a distracted air. Rachel noticed immediately, watching him as he stared off into space, lost in thought. "Something on your mind?" she asked, setting down her tablet and studying him with curiosity. "You've seemed different since you got home." Noah hesitated, unsure how to explain. What could he say? That a boy he'd never met before had changed a tire and somehow left him feeling like his entire life needed re-examining? He gave a non-committal shrug. "Nothing big, just some things on the road today. Made me think, that's all." Rachel looked at him, her expression softening. "Well, we could all use a break from time to time," she said gently, almost as if she sensed the tension he was carrying. Noah nodded, feeling strangely grateful for her words. But a break wouldn't change anything. He had built a life around expectations, routines, and success. It was a life of his own design, yet in the quiet moments it felt like a cage. That night, as Rachel drifted off to sleep beside him, Noah lay awake, the boy's face and words replaying in his mind. The simplicity of it, the pure, uncalculated kindness, challenged everything he'd come to believe about the world. It was as if the boy had glimpsed a part of life that Noah had somehow overlooked. As dawn's first light broke through the blinds, he made a decision. He would find the boy, thank him properly, and maybe, just maybe, figure out why this chance encounter had affected him so deeply. Noah set out the next morning with a sense of purpose he hadn't felt in years. He drove back to the rural road where his car had broken down, retracing the same path he'd taken before. The morning sun cast a soft glow over the landscape, and Noah felt a strange calm settle over him. He hadn't taken a drive with no agenda in years. Everything he did was usually guided by purpose or urgency. But today he was simply following a feeling. As he neared the spot where his tire had gone flat, he scanned the area, looking for any sign of the boy. There were a few small houses in the distance, fields that stretched out beyond, and a dirt path leading toward a small community he hadn't noticed the day before. With nowhere else to turn, he decided to try the path, hoping it would lead him to the boy. The drive was bumpy, lined with old oak trees and wild grasses swaying in the breeze. It felt miles away from the city life he was used to, the silence broken only by the occasional sound of birds or the crunch of gravel beneath his tires. As he reached the end of the path, he saw a modest house, weathered, with chipped paint and a slanting roof. He could hear faint laughter, and as he got closer, he recognized the figure standing in the yard. It was the boy, dressed in the same worn t-shirt, holding an old bike while tinkering with its chain. Noah took a deep breath, feeling a mix of relief and nervousness. He parked and stepped out, approaching the boy with a hesitant smile. "Hey there," he called out, and the boy looked up, surprise flickering across his face. "Mr. Grayson?" the boy asked, recognizing him. "Did you get another flat?" Noah chuckled, feeling a bit embarrassed. "No, thankfully. I just wanted to come by and thank you properly. What you did, it meant more than you know." The boy shrugged, brushing a bit of dirt from his hands. "It was just a tire, mister. No big deal." Noah nodded, trying to find the right words. "I know, but it was more than that to me. You helped me without asking for anything, and that's rare these days." The boy smiled, looking both amused and slightly embarrassed. "I guess we just do things differently around here." Just then, the front door opened, and a woman stepped out. She looked to be in her 40s, her face lined but kind, with a warmth in her eyes that made Noah feel instantly welcome. She smiled at him, brushing a loose strand of hair behind her ear. "Marcus, who's this?" she asked, looking curiously at Noah. "Mom, this is Mr. Grayson. He's the guy with the flat tire from yesterday," Marcus replied, giving her a shy grin. The woman's eyes softened, and she stepped forward, extending a hand. "Im cellist. It's nice to meet you, Mr. Grayson, and thank you for treating my boys so kindly." Noah took her hand, feeling an unexpected sense of ease in her presence. "Please call me Noah," he said, managing a small smile. "And I'm the one who should be thanking him. It's been a while since I met someone as selfless as Marcus." Celeste chuckled. "Well, Marcus is a good kid. Always has been. We do what we can, even if it's just a flat tire." Noah felt his curiosity deepen. "I'd like to repay the favor, if that's all right," he said, hoping he didn't sound too formal. "Maybe I can help out with something around here?" Celeste hesitated, her brow furrowing. "Oh, we manage just fine," she said, though her tone held a note of appreciation. "But I suppose if you'd really like to, there are always things that need fixing around here." Noah nodded, his heart pounding slightly as he realized he was getting what he wanted, a chance to learn more about Marcus and his family, and perhaps a chance to find answers for himself. Celeste led Noah and Marcus toward the small shed beside their house, which was overflowing with tools, old toys, and odds and ends that had seen better days. Noah rolled up his sleeves, and for the first time in years, he wasn't wearing the crisp suit or polished shoes that defined his usual self. "What do you need help with?" he asked, his voice taking on a slightly nervous edge as he realized he had no experience with home repairs. Celeste glanced around, then pointed at the back porch steps, where the wood was splintered and uneven. "We were going to replace those steps at some point. It's been on my to-do list for months." Noah nodded, taking a hammer and nails from the shed. Marcus guided him through the process, showing him how to line up the boards, measure for length, and hammer the nails in at the right angle. As they worked, Marcus chatted easily, sharing stories about school and his friends, stories that hinted at the everyday resilience he and Celeste lived with. Noah listened, feeling a strange sense of privilege of being allowed into their lives, even if only for an afternoon. By the time the porch was fixed, the sun was beginning to dip, casting a warm glow over the yard. Noah looked at the newly repaired steps, feeling an unfamiliar sense of satisfaction. It wasn't the kind of achievement he was used to, no clients closed, no deals made, but it felt real and solid in a way that his work rarely did. Celeste came out with a pitcher of lemonade and 3 glasses, and they sat on the steps, the easy silence between them a testament to the shared work they'd done. "You're pretty good at this, Mr. Grayson," Marcus teased, giving him a sideways grin. Noah laughed, feeling genuinely relaxed for the first time in weeks. "Guess I had a good teacher," he replied, ruffling Marcus's hair. As Noah sipped his lemonade, he glanced around the yard, noticing details he hadn't seen before. The yard was modest but neat, with small flower beds Celeste had planted along the edges, and a swing hanging from an old tree that stood tall in the back corner. The house itself was humble, its faded paint and worn siding showing signs of age, but it exuded a warmth that was rare in his own polished penthouse. The scene reminded him of his own childhood. Simple summer evenings spent on his grandparents' porch, feeling the soft evening air and watching fireflies light up the yard. He'd nearly forgotten the way life could feel without the constant hum of his cell phone, without the weight of meetings and deadlines pressing on him. He glanced over at Celeste, who was watching Marcus with a soft smile. "You've built something special here," he said quietly, his voice thoughtful. Celeste looked at him, a gentle understanding in her eyes. "Thank you. It's not much, but it's home, and we're grateful for what we have." Noah felt a strange tug in his chest, a feeling he couldn't quite name. He had spent so much time building a life that he thought would bring him happiness. Yet here, with people who had so little by comparison, he felt a sense of peace that eluded him in his own life. As the evening wound down, Noah reluctantly took his leave, feeling as though he was leaving a piece of himself behind. He shook Marcus's hand, clapping him on the back, and thanked Celeste for her kindness. "Come back anytime, Noah," Celeste said warmly, waving as he climbed into his SUV. On the drive back, Noah's mind was filled with the images of the day. The laughter, the work, the simplicity of a quiet afternoon spent fixing a porch. For the first time in years, he felt a sense of fulfillment that had nothing to do with money or status. He didn't know what he would do next, but he knew one thing for certain: he would return. There was something about Marcus and Celeste, something about their lives and their resilience, that he needed to understand. And maybe, just maybe, they could help him understand himself. A few days after his first visit, Noah found himself making the drive back to Marcus and Celeste's house, unable to shake the feeling that he was supposed to be there. He hadn't mentioned his plans to Rachel, knowing she would likely question his sudden interest in visiting strangers. But for Noah, the return felt natural, like revisiting an old friend. As he pulled up to the house, Marcus appeared from around the corner, pushing an old lawn mower across the yard. When he saw Noah's car, his face lit up with a grin, and he waved, leaving the mower to walk over. "Mr. Grayson, you came back," Marcus said, a hint of excitement in his voice. Noah felt a small pang of guilt at the boy's enthusiasm. It was a simple welcome, but it held a warmth that he rarely felt in his own life. "Yeah, I figured I'd stop by and see if you needed any more help," he replied, stepping out of his car. Marcus shrugged, glancing over at the lawnmower. "Always plenty to do around here, but only if you don't mind getting your hands dirty." Noah chuckled, rolling up his sleeves. "I think I can handle that." As they worked side by side, mowing the yard and trimming the hedges, Noah felt the steady rhythm of labor work its way into his bones. It was a far cry from the high-stakes boardrooms and sleek conference tables he was used to, but the simplicity of it was grounding. With every blade of grass they cut, he felt a growing sense of purpose, though he couldn't yet define why. After finishing up the yard, Marcus invited Noah inside for a quick glass of water. The house was as modest as he remembered. Bare walls, thrifted furniture, but everything had a place and a purpose. Celeste greeted him warmly, offering him a seat at the small kitchen table. As they settled in, a familiar, comforting aroma filled the air, and Noah noticed a pot of soup simmering on the stove. "I was just about to make lunch," Celeste said with a smile. "You're welcome to join us if you're hungry." Noah hesitated, but the welcoming atmosphere softened his usual reserve. "Thank you. That would be wonderful." As they ate, the conversation flowed easily. Celeste shared stories of her work at a local library and the people she met there, while Marcus chimed in with his own tales from school. Noah listened intently, realizing how little he actually knew about the lives of people beyond his immediate circle. They spoke of neighbors, shared meals, and community gatherings, all things Noah hadn't experienced in years. At one point, Celeste turned to him, her eyes warm with curiosity. "So, what brings you back here, Noah?" "It's not every day we have a visitor twice in 1 week." Caught off guard, Noah searched for an answer that would make sense. "I don't really know, to be honest," he said slowly, his own words surprising him. I think I just wanted to spend time with people who feel real." Celeste nodded, as though she understood. "Well, you're always welcome here. Just know we don't have much, but we share what we have." Her words struck Noah deeply, and he realized just how much he had missed the simple, unguarded kindness that Celeste and Marcus seemed to offer so freely. It was a stark contrast to the world he lived in, where generosity often came with conditions and strings attached. After lunch, Celeste mentioned that a few neighbors were organizing a small community cleanup at the local park and invited Noah to join them. Feeling a strange mix of curiosity and anticipation, he agreed, and together, they made their way to the park with Marcus leading the way. As they arrived, Noah saw a handful of people gathered, chatting and laughing as they pulled on work gloves and organized tools. They greeted Celeste and Marcus warmly, their familiarity evident. Noah felt a pang of envy. These people were connected, part of something that extended beyond their own lives. They shared more than just space. They shared purpose, camaraderie, and support. As the cleanup began, Noah found himself raking leaves alongside a man named Luis, a mechanic who lived down the street from Celeste. Luis was friendly and full of stories, talking about his family and the neighbors as if they were all part of one extended household. "So, you're a friend of Celeste's?" Luis asked, giving Noah an assessing glance. Noah hesitated, unsure of what to say. "I suppose you could say that. I met Marcus recently, and he helped me out with a bit of car trouble." Luis grinned. "That kid's got a good heart. He'd help anybody in need, no questions asked." Noah nodded, feeling a strange surge of pride on Marcus's behalf. He hadn't known the boy long, but he was beginning to understand the strength of his character. As the afternoon wore on, the group worked steadily, laughing and joking together. By the time the park was clean, Noah was exhausted, his muscles sore from the unfamiliar labor. But as he looked around at the group, he felt a warmth that outweighed the physical strain. For the first time in years, he felt like he was part of something larger than himself, a feeling he hadn't realized he'd been missing. On the drive back to Celeste's house, Noah and Marcus chatted easily. Marcus was asking him about the cars he'd owned over the years, and Noah realized how rare it was to talk about something so simple without it leading back to work or status. They parked outside the house, but before Noah could say goodbye, Marcus spoke up, his tone tentative. "Mr. Noah, do you know much about building things?" Noah shrugged, slightly embarrassed. "Not much, but I could learn." "Why?" Marcus's face lit up with excitement. "I've been saving up to build a treehouse. Nothing big, just a place where I can hang out and read. But I don't really have all the stuff I need." The idea intrigued Noah. "I'd be happy to help," he said, surprising himself with his enthusiasm. "Let's start with what you've got, and we can figure out the rest as we go." The joy on Marcus's face was worth every minute he would spend learning to build. And as Noah walked back to his car, he realized that he was looking forward to the project as much as Marcus was. This wasn't about charity. It was about sharing something real and tangible. That evening, when Noah returned home, he found Rachel waiting for him. She looked at him with a mixture of curiosity and concern, noticing the mud on his shoes and the sunburn on his arms. "Where have you been?" she asked, trying to sound casual, but unable to hide her worry. Noah hesitated, knowing his answer might sound strange. "I went to visit a family I met recently. They live out in the country, and they're good people, Rachel. It feels right being around them." Rachel studied him for a moment, a hint of disbelief crossing her face. "Are you planning on seeing them again?" Noah nodded, feeling an unexpected surge of defensiveness. "Yes, I am. It's hard to explain, but I feel like I'm doing something real there, something that matters." Rachel's gaze softened, though she still seemed unsure. "I just don't want you to lose sight of what's important here, Noah. We need you too." He reached for her hand, feeling a pang of guilt. "Ik no ratel. And I'm trying to figure out a way to be here for you and Madison too. I need to do this." Rachel gave him a small nod, though he could see the lingering worry in her eyes. Noah knew he had a long way to go in balancing his new connections with his family life, but for the first time, he felt like he was moving in the right direction. The following weekend, Noah returned to Marcus's house, bringing with him a set of tools he hadn't touched in years and a few lumberboards he'd purchased. Marcus's face lit up as he saw the supplies, and they immediately set to work on the treehouse, their laughter and conversation filling the yard. They spent hours measuring, sawing, and hammering, making progress little by little. As they worked, Noah found himself talking more openly with Marcus than he had with anyone in a long time. He shared stories from his own childhood, memories of building forts with his friends, of days spent outdoors exploring and climbing trees. These memories, long buried beneath years of work and ambition, resurfaced like old friends. Marcus listened intently, asking questions and sharing his own dreams of adventure. He spoke of the books he loved, his dreams of becoming an engineer, and the simple hope of creating something he could call his own. By the end of the day, they had the frame of the treehouse in place. Marcus looked up at it with pride, his face flushed with excitement. "This is amazing, Mr. Noah. I can't wait until it's done." Noah smiled, feeling a quiet satisfaction he hadn't experienced in years. "Neither can I, Marcus. We'll finish it together." As Noah drove home, he felt an unexpected sense of accomplishment, a kind of satisfaction that didn't come from a lucrative deal or a closed contract, but from the shared joy of creation. Building the treehouse was a small act, but it felt significant, like he was building something within himself as well. The simplicity of the day lingered with him, the laughter, the sawdust-covered hands, and the look of pride on Marcus's face. It all reminded him of the things he had once held dear, but had let slip away over the years. He had spent his life striving for success, but in doing so, he had lost the sense of connection, the grounding that came from simply being with people, helping them, and learning from them. As he pulled into his driveway, Noah felt a shift within him, a realization that his life didn't need to revolve around status and wealth. There was a richness in the relationships he was building, in the kindness he was receiving and giving back. And for the first time in years, he felt like he was finding his way home, not to a place, but to a sense of purpose he had lost along the way. Noah returned to Marcus and Celeste's house the following weekend with a renewed sense of purpose, looking forward to finishing the treehouse they'd started. But as he pulled up to the modest home, he noticed a tense exchange between Celeste and an unfamiliar man at the front porch. The man's worn clothes and harsh demeanor contrasted sharply with Celeste's calm, and Noah's instincts told him something was wrong. As Noah stepped out of his car, Celeste noticed him and offered a brief, grateful smile. "Oh, hi Noah," she said, her voice strained but welcoming. "This is my neighbor Jack. He's been having some trouble with his tools and asked to borrow a few." Jack gave Noah a look, and after a moment's hesitation, muttered a quick thanks before turning and walking down the driveway. Noah watched as he disappeared down the road, feeling a sense of unease. He'd recognized the look in Jack's eyes, the frustration and bitterness of someone worn down by life. "Everything okay?" Noah asked, glancing back at Celeste. Celeste's smile was reassuring, but Noah sensed a heaviness in her voice. "Yes, Jack just has his struggles. We do what we can to help." Noah nodded, marveling at Celeste's calm. "You're kind to help, even when you don't have much yourself." Celeste shrugged, her eyes distant. "Sometimes kindness is all we can give. It's not about what we have, it's about what we can offer." She paused, looking back at Noah thoughtfully. "Thank you for stopping by. Marcus has been looking forward to finishing that treehouse all week." Noah felt a pang of guilt as he realized that, while his life was filled with conveniences, Celeste's life was a balancing act of kindness and resilience. It was humbling, seeing someone offer so much when they had so little, and it reminded him of the true purpose he was beginning to discover. With renewed enthusiasm, Noah joined Marcus in the backyard, where they resumed work on the treehouse. Over the next several hours, they installed boards, tested the stability, and added small details that made the treehouse uniquely Marcus's. A spot for his books, a small window, and a place for him to sit and look out over the yard. As they worked, Marcus opened up more, sharing stories of the challenges he faced at school, the dreams he had for the future, and his admiration for his mother's strength. Noah listened intently, feeling a deepening respect for the young boy's resilience and maturity. "Mom always tells me not to worry about things we can't change," Marcus said as they hammered in the last nail. "But I want to help her one day, make things easier for her, you know?" Noah placed a hand on Marcus's shoulder, feeling a surge of admiration. "You're already helping her more than you realize, Marcus. Your mom sees the kind of person you're growing into, and that's worth more than any material thing." Marcus looked up at him, a grateful smile on his face. "Thanks, Mr. Noah. I don't have a lot of friends who understand." Noah felt a pang, realizing just how much Marcus was dealing with at such a young age. The boy's determination and honesty were reminders of values that had been lost somewhere in his own life journey. As they stood in the finished treehouse, admiring their work, Noah felt a satisfaction that no deal or corporate success had ever brought him. That evening, Celeste invited Noah to stay for dinner. At first, he hesitated, thinking of the commitments he had back home, but the warmth of the invitation was impossible to resist. He joined them at their small dining table, the simple meal of pasta and vegetables filling the room with comforting aromas. As they shared stories and laughter, Noah felt himself relax in a way he hadn't in years. He observed the easy bond between Celeste and Marcus, their quiet jokes, and the way they supported one another without needing to say it outright. It was a closeness that he realized he'd rarely experienced in his own family, despite all their material comforts. Celeste asked about his work, and Noah found himself explaining it in a way he'd never done before. Not as a list of accomplishments, but as a journey filled with challenges and lessons. As he spoke, he realized that he wasn't proud of all the choices he'd made. He could see in Celeste's eyes that she understood, and though she said little, her listening gave him a sense of peace. "Sounds like you've worked hard to get where you are," Celeste said finally, her tone kind yet perceptive. "But remember, success isn't always measured in what we have. Sometimes it's about the people we're there for." Noah felt the weight of her words, sensing their truth. He had focused so long on building his career, his reputation, and his wealth, but what did he really have to show for it? As he helped clear the table, Noah realized how much he had missed this. An ordinary evening, the shared warmth of family, and the feeling of being part of something real. On the drive home, Noah's mind swirled with thoughts, replaying moments from the evening. The laughter, the simple yet meaningful conversations, the shared silence as they ate. It was a world away from the sleek, modern penthouse waiting for him back in the city. For the first time, the thought of returning to his polished, sterile life felt hollow. When he finally walked through the door, Rachel was in the kitchen, a mug of tea in her hands. She looked up as he entered, her face revealing a mix of relief and curiosity. "You're home late," she said softly, setting down the mug. "Did something happen?" Noah hesitated, not wanting to burden her with his inner conflicts. "No, I just spent some time with a family I've been helping." Rachel's eyes softened, though he sensed a hint of concern. "No, you've been different lately. It's like you're searching for something." He felt a surge of vulnerability, and for a moment, he wondered if he should open up to her. But part of him wasn't ready to share everything yet. "I guess I am, Rachel," he admitted quietly. "I didn't realize how much was missing until I started spending time with them." Rachel nodded, sensing the depth of his words. "Just remember that we're here too, Noah. Madison and I need you." Noah placed a reassuring hand on hers, feeling the weight of her words. He was beginning to realize that he couldn't keep living in two worlds. Eventually, he would have to decide where his true priorities lay. Over the following weeks, Noah's visits to Marcus and Celeste's house became routine. He helped them with small projects around the house, joined them for dinners, and became part of their everyday life. He was drawn to their kindness, their resilience, and the way they faced life's challenges without bitterness. Marcus, in particular, looked up to him with a respect that warmed Noah's heart. The boy would ask him questions about the world beyond their small town, about careers, dreams, and possibilities. Noah began to realize that his role was more than just a helper. He was becoming a mentor, someone who could help shape Marcus's future. One evening, as they were sitting on the porch watching the sunset, Marcus turned to him with a serious look. "Mr. Noah, do you ever wish you'd done things differently?" Noah looked out at the fading sun, feeling the weight of the question. "Yes," he replied honestly. "I've spent a lot of my life chasing things that I thought would make me happy. But now, I'm starting to realize that happiness isn't always in the big things. Sometimes it's in the quiet moments like this." Marcus nodded, absorbing the words. "I think that's what my mom always tries to tell me. That life isn't about what we have, but about who we are." Noah smiled, feeling a strange sense of pride. "Your mom is a wise woman, Marcus. You do well to listen to her." They sat in companionable silence, watching as the stars began to appear, each lost in their own thoughts. Noah felt a sense of peace, a feeling he hadn't known in years. For the first time, he felt that he was not only finding himself, but also becoming someone he could respect. As Noah's relationship with Marcus and Celeste deepened, he began to see his own life in a new light. At work, he noticed the transactional nature of his interactions more acutely, the way people measured worth by achievements rather than character. The meetings, the deals, the pressures, they no longer held the same allure. Instead, he found himself yearning for the simplicity he experienced with Marcus and Celeste. One afternoon, as he sat in a meeting with his business partner, James, he felt an overwhelming sense of disconnection. James was discussing a potential merger, his voice animated, but to Noah, the conversation felt hollow. "What do you think, Noah?" James asked, looking expectantly at him. Noah hesitated, realizing he hadn't been listening. "I'm sorry, James. Could we go over it again?" James raised an eyebrow, clearly surprised by Noah's distraction. "Everything okay, Noah?" Noah nodded, forcing a smile. "Yes, I just have a lot on my mind." But even as he said it, he knew that his mind was elsewhere. It was back with Marcus and Celeste, with the feeling of being part of a community, of building something real. The life he had once prized was beginning to feel distant, like a memory of someone he used to be. On his next visit to Marcus and Celeste's house, Noah brought along a gift. It was a simple notebook, but it felt significant to him. He handed it to Marcus, who looked at it with surprise and curiosity. "What's this for?" Marcus asked, his face lighting up. "I thought you might like to write down your ideas, your dreams," Noah replied. "You have a lot of potential, Marcus, and sometimes writing things down helps make them real." Marcus opened the notebook, flipping through the empty pages with a thoughtful smile. "Thanks, Mr. Noah. Maybe one day, I'll write about all the things we've done together." Noah chuckled, touched by the sentiment. "I'd be honored, Marcus." As they sat together, Marcus began jotting down ideas, sharing them with Noah as he wrote. Watching the boy's enthusiasm, Noah felt a deep satisfaction that no amount of wealth or success had ever brought him. This was the kind of impact he'd always hoped to have, real, meaningful, and lasting. And as he watched Marcus write, Noah realized that he was not just investing in the boy's future. He was also investing in his own transformation. Noah's evenings with Marcus and Celeste had become a routine he cherished. But at home, Rachel and Madison started to notice his growing absence, and the tension began to mount. One evening, Rachel approached him in the kitchen, her expression a mix of worry and frustration. "Noah, we need to talk," she began, her voice calm but firm. He looked up from his phone, immediately sensing the gravity of her tone. "What's on your mind?" Rachel took a deep breath, choosing her words carefully. "You've been spending so much time with this family, and I know it's something you're passionate about. But I feel like you're pulling away from us, from me and Madison." Noah felt a pang of guilt, but struggled to articulate his need for the connection he'd found with Marcus and Celeste. "Rachel, it's hard to explain, but being around them, it reminds me of something I've been missing." Rachel's eyes softened slightly, but her concern remained. "I understand that, Noah. I really do. But Madison and I need you too. You're her father, and she looks up to you. You don't have to choose between us and them, but I need you to find balance." Noah nodded, absorbing her words, but he felt the pull of conflicting responsibilities tightening around him. He wanted to be there for his family, but he couldn't ignore the impact Marcus and Celeste were having on him. This connection was more than a project. It was becoming a lifeline, and he wasn't sure how to balance it all. At work, the pressures Noah had once handled with ease now felt overwhelming. His meetings were filled with endless talk of profits and growth, but the excitement he'd once felt for these discussions had dimmed. Even his partner, James, noticed the shift. During a project review, James pulled Noah aside, a look of concern on his face. "Noah, I don't know what's been going on with you lately, but you've been distracted. This isn't like you." Noah sighed, looking down at the stack of reports on his desk. "I know, James. I've just been dealing with some things outside of work." James crossed his arms, studying Noah with a scrutinizing gaze. "Look, I'm not saying you can't have a personal life, but this company is built on the foundation of us giving it everything we've got. We've invested years into this. Noah felt the weight of James's words, knowing he wasn't wrong. He had built his life around this career, sacrificed relationships, time, and energy to reach this level of success. But lately, he felt like he was running on autopilot, his passion for the job overshadowed by something he couldn't quite name. "I get it, James. I just need some time to sort things out," Noah replied, hoping it was true. James gave him a nod, though the tension lingered. "Make sure you do, Noah. We can't afford to lose focus." As James walked away, Noah felt a familiar sense of duty, but also a creeping doubt. Could he really continue in a world that now felt hollow? The weight of his conflicting priorities grew harder to bear, and Noah found himself unsure of how to move forward. So, he turned to the one person he knew would offer honest advice, Celeste. One evening, after helping Marcus with a school project, he pulled Celeste aside. "Celeste, can I ask you something?" he began, his voice tinged with vulnerability. "How do you manage to keep everything together? Your family, your work, your home, it all just seems so balanced." Celeste smiled, her eyes reflecting the wisdom of someone who had weathered life's challenges with grace. "It's not easy, Noah, but I learned a long time ago that life isn't about control. It's about knowing what truly matters and making choices based on that." Noah considered her words, realizing that his life had always been about control, controlling outcomes, relationships, and success. He had never truly let go or allowed himself to follow his heart without worrying about the consequences. "You make it sound simple," he replied, a small smile playing on his lips. Celeste shook her head. "It's not simple, but it is freeing. Maybe it's time for you to ask yourself what matters most to you, Noah. Everything else will fall into place from there." As he left that evening, her words lingered in his mind, a quiet whisper that urged him to reevaluate his life. He was beginning to understand that he couldn't live in two worlds. He would need to make a choice, and it terrified him. A few days later, Noah found himself alone with Madison on a quiet Sunday afternoon. They decided to go for a walk around the neighborhood, a rare chance to connect without distractions. "Dad," Madison said after a few minutes, "you seem different lately, like you're thinking about something all the time." Noah looked at her, surprised by her perception. "I've been spending time with some people who've made me question things I used to think were important." Madison glanced at him, curiosity in her eyes. "Is this about that family? Mom said you've been helping them a lot." He nodded. "Yes, and it's been eye-opening. They've shown me a kind of life that's less about success and more about being there for each other. It's made me realize I might have been chasing the wrong things." Madison paused, absorbing his words. "I think it's cool, Dad. Sometimes I think you're so focused on work that you forget about the small things. Maybe they're helping you remember." Noah felt a surge of gratitude for his daughter's insight. Madison's simple words cut through his inner conflict, showing him a truth he hadn't fully acknowledged. He had lost touch with the small moments that made life meaningful. Perhaps reconnecting with those moments was the key to finding balance. Just as Noah began to feel more certain about the path he was on, he received an unexpected phone call from Celeste one evening. Her voice was quiet, filled with an anxiety he'd never heard before. "Noah, I hate to bother you, but I could use your help," she said hesitantly. "We've had some unexpected repairs come up. The roof is leaking, and the bills, it's just a lot right now." The vulnerability in her voice hit Noah hard. He knew she rarely asked for help and that any request came with a genuine need. "Of course, Celeste. I'd be happy to help however I can," he replied immediately. "We'll get this taken care of." Celeste let out a sigh of relief, but Noah could sense her lingering worry. As he hung up, he felt a surge of determination mixed with a newfound sense of responsibility. He realized that helping Marcus and Celeste was no longer just an act of kindness. It was a commitment to be there for them, no matter the challenges. But as he began to think about the costs, both financial and emotional, he felt the weight of his choices pressing down on him. He was willing to help, but at what expense? His growing attachment to them was starting to interfere with his responsibilities at home and work, and he feared the consequences. That evening, when Noah shared the news with Rachel, her reaction was less understanding than he'd hoped. She listened quietly as he explained his plans to help with the repairs, her expression growing more distant with each word. Noah, I know you care about them, but are you really thinking about taking on their responsibilities? She asked, frustration evident in her voice. We have our own bills, our own family to look after. You can't keep giving and giving. Noah felt a pang of defensiveness but tried to remain calm. Rachel, I understand, but this isn't just about fixing their roof. It's about being there for people who have become important to me. I can't turn my back on them. Rachel looked away, her expression hurt. I feel like you're slipping away from us, Noah. You're there for them, but what about us? What about Madison? Her words struck him deeply, and he realized the toll his choices were taking on his family. He had become so invested in helping Marcus and Celeste that he hadn't considered the strain it was putting on his relationship with Rachel and Madison. He reached for her hand, his voice soft. Rachel, I promise I'll find a way to balance this. I don't want to lose what we have. She held his gaze, her eyes filled with uncertainty. I hope so, Noah, because I'm not sure how much longer I can watch you pour everything into someone else's life while we're left on the sidelines. As he lay awake that night, her words echoed in his mind, amplifying his self-doubt. He knew he couldn't abandon Marcus and Celeste, but he also couldn't ignore the needs of his own family. The conflict tore at him, leaving him unsure of how to move forward. Over the next week, Noah's internal struggle grew more intense. He poured himself into helping Marcus and Celeste, overseeing the repairs on their home and offering support whenever they needed it. Yet with every hour he spent with them, he felt the distance widening between himself and his own family. One evening, after a long day of work and helping with the repairs, he came home to find Madison already in bed and Rachel reading in silence. The usual warmth of home felt colder, as if he were a stranger in his own life. He sat beside Rachel, hesitating before speaking. I care about Marcus and Celeste, but I don't want to lose you and Madison in the process. Rachel looked up, her expression softened by empathy. Then maybe it's time to make a choice, Noah. You can't be everywhere at once. You need to decide where your heart truly lies. Noah nodded, his mind swirling with the weight of her words. He knew he couldn't keep living a divided life, torn between two worlds. And as he looked into Rachel's eyes, he realized he had reached a crossroads, one that would determine not only his future, but the legacy he would leave behind. After the tense discussion with Rachel, Noah felt the weight of his decisions pressing on him more than ever. He realized he needed to talk to Marcus, not only to continue helping with repairs, but also to gain some clarity about his own purpose. That weekend, he headed back to Marcus's house, but this time, the drive felt different, heavier, more uncertain. When he arrived, Marcus greeted him with his usual enthusiasm, but Noah's mood was far from light. Hey, Mr. Noah, are we still fixing the shed today? Marcus asked, waving a hammer with excitement. Noah forced a smile. Absolutely, Marcus. Let's get to it. As they worked side by side, Marcus chattered on about his school project and his friends, unaware of Noah's inner conflict. But as they took a break, Noah decided to be honest with him. Marcus, I've been thinking a lot lately, Noah began, choosing his words carefully. I love spending time with you and helping out here, but it's complicated. My family doesn't quite understand why I'm here so often. Marcus's expression shifted, a hint of sadness in his eyes. Are you not going to come around as much? Noah felt a pang of guilt. I don't know, Marcus. I want to be here. I really do. But it's hard to explain to my family why this matters so much to me. Marcus thought for a moment, looking down at the tools in his hands. I get it, Mr. Noah. I know you have a family, and I don't want to make things hard for you. But you've made a difference here. I mean, you've made a difference for me. Noah's chest tightened at the boy's sincerity. Marcus's words were simple, but they struck a chord he couldn't ignore. In that moment, he realized that his relationship with Marcus was not something he could easily walk away from. He had become part of Marcus's life, and the bond they shared was more than a temporary distraction. It was something meaningful and real. Later that evening, Noah found himself reaching out to an old friend for advice. His college friend, Eric, was someone he hadn't spoken to in years, but who had known him before he became the man consumed by work and ambition. They met at a local diner, and as Noah explained his situation, Eric listened with the patience of an old friend. So, Let me get this straight, Eric said after a long pause. You've got this family that's taught you what it means to be there for others, but you're feeling torn between them and your own family? Noah nodded, frustration seeping into his voice. Yes, it feels like I'm trying to balance two worlds. I want to be there for Marcus, but my own family is suffering. Eric leaned back, crossing his arms thoughtfully. Well, maybe the answer isn't about choosing one over the other. Maybe it's about figuring out how to bring what you've learned from them back to your family. Maybe what's missing isn't just with them, but also with your own family. Noah considered his friend's words, realizing that perhaps the gap he felt wasn't just with Rachel and Madison. It was with himself. For years, he had pursued success to fill an emptiness, and now he was discovering that fulfillment wasn't something he could find outside of himself. He had to build it, nurture it, and bring it into his life, even with his own family. Eric continued, his tone encouraging. You've got to find a way to integrate these two worlds, Noah. Make it so they don't feel like separate parts of you, but one whole person. That's the only way it's going to work. Noah left the diner that night with a clearer sense of direction. Eric's words had given him a new perspective, one that would guide him as he navigated the challenges ahead. The next morning, Noah found a folded piece of paper slipped under his office door at home. The handwriting was unmistakable. It was from Madison. Curious, he opened it, and as he read, he felt his heart sink. Dear Dad, I know you're going through something, and I know it has to do with that family you're helping. I don't really get why it matters so much, but I see how happy it makes you. I guess I just wish that happiness could be here too, with us. I miss you, Dad. I know I'm not a kid anymore, but I still need you around. I'm proud of the things you're doing for them, but I don't want to lose you in the process. I love you. Madison. Noah read the letter twice, each word sinking deeper than the last. He realized that his absence was more than just physical. He had been emotionally distant for a long time, even before he met Marcus and Celeste. Madison's words were a reminder of the family he had right in front of him, the one he had neglected in his pursuit of meaning outside of his home. With a renewed sense of purpose, Noah folded the letter carefully and slipped it into his pocket. Madison's letter had given him the clarity he needed. He would not abandon his relationship with Marcus, but he would find a way to bring the same authenticity and love into his own family. Determined to make things right, Noah visited Marcus and Celeste later that week, bringing with him some supplies for the repairs they still needed to finish. However, when he arrived, he was greeted by an unexpected scene. A small group of men, including the neighbor Jack, stood by the house, muttering amongst themselves and casting disapproving glances at Noah's car. Jack stepped forward, his voice dripping with resentment. Looks like Mr. Big City is here to save the day again, he sneered, crossing his arms. Funny how you swoop in when it suits you. Noah was taken aback by the hostility. Jack, I'm just here to help. There's no need to make this into something it isn't. Jack scoffed. It's easy for you to play the hero when you've got money to throw around. But some of us don't get to live in a mansion and drive fancy cars. You come in here, acting like you're one of us, but you're not. Noah felt the sting of Jack's words, realizing that perhaps his presence wasn't as welcome as he had assumed. He glanced at Celeste, who was standing by the door, her expression pained but silent. Taking a steadying breath, Noah looked back at Jack. I understand if you're angry, Jack, but I'm here because I care about this family. I want to make a difference. Jack shook his head, his gaze unwavering. You don't get it, Grayson. This isn't just about Marcus and Celeste. It's about all of us. You come in here, and it's like you're showing us what we can't have. Some of us can't just throw money at problems. The tension hung heavy in the air, and Noah felt a surge of frustration mixed with guilt. He had never intended to make anyone feel less, but he realized now that his presence was stirring resentment in a community that had always been self-sufficient. As Jack and the others walked away, Noah was left standing with Celeste, who gave him an apologetic smile. I'm sorry, Noah. It's hard for them. They see you as someone who has it all, and it's hard for them to accept help. Noah nodded, his heart heavy. I never meant to make things worse, Celeste. I just wanted to be there for you. Celeste touched his arm, her voice kind. You are Noah. Don't let a few voices discourage you. Marcus and I are grateful for everything you've done. But as he left that day, Noah couldn't shake the feeling that his attempts to help were causing more harm than good. He began to question whether his presence in their lives was a blessing or a burden, and the doubt gnawed at him. With the setback weighing on his mind, Noah returned home and sought solace in quiet reflection. He sat alone in his office, Madison's letter opens in front of him, and thought about what he truly wanted for himself, his family, and the people he cared about. As he read Madison's words again, he realized that his role wasn't about saving anyone. It was about being present. He didn't need to solve every problem or fix every broken thing. He simply needed to be there, offering love and support without expectation. That night, he spoke with Rachel and Madison, opening up about his experiences with Marcus and Celeste. He shared what he had learned, the values he had come to appreciate, and the impact it was having on him. "I don't want to lose you both in this process," he told them, his voice filled with sincerity. "I'm learning that life isn't just about doing big things, but about being there for the people we love. And I want to bring that into our home too." Rachel and Madison listened, their expressions softened by understanding. Madison hugged him tightly, and Rachel placed a gentle hand on his arm. "We're here for you, Noah," Rachel said quietly, "and we're proud of the man you're becoming." In that moment, Noah realized that his journey with Marcus and Celeste wasn't about choosing one life over the other. It was about integrating the love, kindness, and authenticity he had found into every part of his life. The next morning, Noah woke with a renewed sense of purpose. The tension between his family and his commitment to Marcus and Celeste's family was still present, but he now had a clearer understanding of what he needed to do. It wasn't about grand gestures or solving every problem. It was about showing up, being present, and investing in the people he cared about. Noah began with a small but important step. He invited Rachel and Madison to join him on a visit to Marcus and Celeste's home. He wanted them to see firsthand why this family had become so meaningful to him and to start bridging the divide that had formed over the past months. Rachel was hesitant at first, but after hearing Noah's heartfelt explanation, she agreed. Madison, curious about the family her father had become so involved with, was immediately enthusiastic. Together, they drove out to the rural town where Marcus and Celeste lived, sharing nervous glances, but open to the experience. As they pulled up to the small house, Marcus came running out to greet them, his face lighting up when he saw Noah. But his expression shifted to surprise and excitement when he noticed Rachel and Madison stepping out of the car. "Mr. Noah, you brought your family," he exclaimed, a grin spreading across his face. Noah nodded, smiling as he introduced everyone. "Rachel, Madison, this is Marcus, the young man who taught me a lot more than just how to change a tire." Rachel extended a hand, her usual reserved manner softening as she saw Marcus's genuine warmth. Madison, meanwhile, struck up an immediate conversation, and within minutes, she and Marcus were laughing together, their bond forming naturally. Celeste came out, greeting them warmly and inviting them inside. As they gathered in the cozy living room, Noah felt a sense of relief. This moment was proof that his two worlds didn't have to be separate, that he could be present and committed to both. Over the following days, Noah found himself reflecting on his next steps. He wanted to support Marcus and Celeste in a way that would truly empower them, rather than relying solely on financial support or one-time gestures. After discussing ideas with Rachel, who had grown to understand and even appreciate Noah's dedication, they came up with a plan. Together, they decided to create a small community fund in partnership with a local nonprofit, aimed at supporting families like Marcus and Celeste in the area. When he brought up the idea to Celeste, her eyes widened in surprise. "Noah, you've already done so much for us. I don't want you to feel obligated to do more." Noah shook his head, his voice sincere. "It's not about obligation, Celeste. It's about helping you and others in a way that lasts, in a way that strengthens the whole community. This isn't just for you. It's for anyone who needs a little extra support to get by." Celeste's expression softened as she took in his words. That would mean a lot, not just to us, but to so many others around here." Noah felt a warmth spreading through him. This was the kind of impact he had always wanted to make, not just a quick fix, but something lasting, something that could help others find their footing. Back at work, Noah's focus had shifted. Instead of diving back into his usual routine, he took time to meet with his partner, James, to discuss changes he wanted to implement within the company. During their meeting, Noah explained his desire to align their work with values that extended beyond profit margins. James, I think we've spent so long focusing on financial growth that we've overlooked the importance of community involvement. What if we started giving back in meaningful ways? James looked at him, eyebrows raised. You're talking about charity work? Donations? No, not just donations, Noah clarified. I mean investing in real change. Partnering with local organizations, supporting education, and creating programs that make a difference in people's lives. To Noah's surprise, James nodded slowly. I think it's a good idea, Noah. Times are changing, and people want to see companies that care about more than just the bottom line. Noah felt a rush of gratitude, realizing that his experiences with Marcus and Celeste were opening doors for change in every area of his life. By incorporating these values at work, he was bringing the lessons he'd learned full circle, and it felt right. One evening, as Noah prepared dinner for the family, Madison joined him in the kitchen, watching him with a curious expression. Dad, she said, leaning against the counter, you've changed. I mean a lot. And I like it. Noah smiled, feeling a wave of relief and pride. Thank you, Maddie. I know I've been distant, but I'm trying to be better. I want to be here for you and your mom, just as much as I'm there for Marcus and Celeste. Madison nodded thoughtfully. I'm glad. I know it was hard at first, but I can see now why it matters to you. And I think it's kind of cool, actually, helping people like that. Her words touched him deeply, and as they finished preparing dinner together, Noah felt a sense of unity within his family that he hadn't felt in years. He realized that Madison and Rachel were as much a part of this journey as he was, and that the changes he was making were shaping not only his life, but theirs as well. A few weeks later, Noah invited Marcus and Celeste to a small dinner at his home, wanting to thank them for everything they had done to change his life. He prepared the meal with Rachel and Madison, making it a family affair that reflected his newfound commitment to unity and gratitude. When Marcus and Celeste arrived, they were both visibly touched by the invitation. Marcus looked around with wide eyes, clearly amazed by the elegant but welcoming setting. This place is beautiful, Mr. Noah, Marcus said, his voice filled with awe. Noah smiled, gesturing for them to sit. Thank you, Marcus, but it's just a house. What makes it meaningful is the people inside it. As they shared the meal, the conversation flowed easily, filled with laughter and stories. Noah felt a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing that he had brought his family and Marcus's together in a way that honored both relationships. At the end of the evening, Celeste pulled Noah aside, her eyes brimming with gratitude. Noah, I don't think you realize how much you've done for us. But beyond that, you've become family. Her words moved him more than he could express. Thank you, Celeste. You and Marcus have given me more than you know. You've helped me find the part of myself I'd lost along the way. They embraced, and in that moment, Noah felt the completion of a journey that had begun with a flat tire on a lonely road. He had come full circle, not only finding a purpose, but also building lasting connections that would guide him for years to come. Months passed, and the community fund Noah had established began to grow, bringing relief and support to families across the area. Noah continued to visit Marcus and Celeste regularly, helping with projects, mentoring Marcus, and remaining a constant presence in their lives. His relationship with Rachel and Madison flourished as well, as he continued to prioritize time and presence with them. Through weekly family dinners, weekend outings, and shared projects, Noah found a balance he had once thought impossible. One afternoon, Marcus handed him a small notebook, the very one Noah had given him months before. Here, Mr. Noah, Marcus said, smiling shyly. I've been writing down everything you taught me about life and kindness. I thought you might like to read it. Noah opened the notebook, his eyes scanning the pages filled with Marcus's thoughts, dreams, and reflections. It was a record of their journey together, a testament to the impact of their shared experiences. Thank you, Marcus, Noah replied, his voice thick with emotion. This is the greatest gift I could ever receive. He knew that Marcus would carry these lessons forward, passing them down in his own way, creating a ripple effect that would extend beyond either of their lives. As Noah stood on the porch of his home, watching the sunset with Rachel and Madison, he felt a peace he had never known before. His life was no longer defined by his career or his possessions, but by the relationships he had built, the kindness he had shared, and the legacy of generosity he had chosen to create. Rachel leaned against him, her voice soft. "You found what you were looking for, didn't you?" Noah nodded, a contented smile on his face. "Yes, he did, and I wouldn't trade it for anything." As the sun dipped below the horizon, he knew that his journey was just beginning. He would continue to be there for Marcus, for Celeste, for his family, and for anyone who needed a helping hand. He had found his purpose, his balance, and his true self. Noah had learned that wealth was not measured in material possessions, but in the richness of one's relationships, the impact of one's actions, and the love that connected them all. And as he looked at his family, he knew that this was only the start of a legacy that would live on, built on kindness, generosity, and the unbreakable bonds of family. As the months went on, Noah's commitment to the community fund continued to grow. He and Celeste partnered with a local nonprofit to establish a scholarship program aimed at giving children from lower-income backgrounds opportunities to pursue their dreams. Named the Marcus Foundation in honor of the boy who had started it all, the program offered mentorship, access to education, and resources to help these kids thrive. One evening, Noah received a call from Celeste, her voice filled with excitement. "Noah, you won't believe it. Marcus has been accepted into the summer engineering program at the local college." The news brought an immediate smile to Noah's face. "That's incredible, Celeste. Marcus deserves every bit of it. He's worked so hard." Marcus's admission into the program symbolized how far they had come together, not just as individuals, but as a family bonded by purpose and resilience. The scholarship fund had already begun to help other children in the area, creating opportunities that had once felt out of reach. Noah's dedication to the project inspired not only the community, but also his colleagues and family, bringing his vision of lasting change to life. In honor of Marcus's achievement, Celeste invited Noah and his family to a celebratory gathering at her home. This time, Noah brought not just Rachel and Madison, but also his parents, who had been eager to meet the people who had played such a profound role in Noah's transformation. As the families gathered around a long table set up in Celeste's backyard, laughter and conversations filled the air. Marcus proudly shared stories of his upcoming program, his excitement palpable. Madison and Marcus sat side by side, discussing their dreams and ambitions, their friendship deepened by the shared experiences of their families. Noah's parents looked on, visibly moved as they saw the sense of joy and unity that filled the gathering. They had watched Noah change over the past year, and seeing him so at ease, surrounded by people who truly valued him, brought them a sense of peace. After the meal, Noah stood up to give a toast. He looked around at the people who had become a part of his journey, his family, and his heart. "To Marcus, whose kindness and courage inspired something in me that I thought was long lost," he began, his voice strong and heartfelt. "And to Celeste, whose strength and grace showed me the power of true generosity. Thank you both, and to everyone here for reminding me what really matters. May we always remember that life's greatest wealth is found in our connections, in the kindness we share, and in the love we give." As he raised his glass, a wave of applause and cheers erupted from around the table. In that moment, Noah knew he had come full circle. The journey that had started with a single act of kindness had blossomed into a purpose that would live on, impacting lives far beyond his own. On the first day of Marcus's summer program, Noah drove him to the campus, wanting to share in the excitement and offer support. As they walked through the bustling halls, Noah couldn't help but feel a surge of pride for the young man Marcus was becoming. Marcus looked around with wide-eyed wonder, his confidence evident yet tempered by the humility he'd learned from his mother. "Are you nervous?" Noah asked, sensing the boy's excitement mixed with anticipation. Marcus grinned, shaking his head. "Maybe a little, but mostly I'm just excited to learn more. I want to do something with my life, make a difference like you did for me." Noah placed a hand on Marcus's shoulder, his voice gentle. You've already made a difference, Marcus, just by being yourself, and I have no doubt that you'll continue to change lives. They shared a quiet moment before Marcus joined his classmates, waving goodbye with a look of gratitude and determination. As Noah watched him go, he felt a deep sense of peace. Marcus was not just a boy he had helped. He was a symbol of hope, a reminder of the impact one person could have on the world. Back at work, Noah took the values he'd learned from his experiences and applied them to his company's culture. He launched a Day of Service initiative, encouraging employees to volunteer in their communities, and began offering mentorship programs for young professionals from underserved backgrounds. The impact was immediate, and Noah's company soon became known not only for its success, but for its commitment to positive change. His partner, James, was initially skeptical, but over time he came to see the value of Noah's vision. I didn't get it at first, James admitted one day in a meeting. But I see now that this isn't just about business. It's about building something that matters. Noah nodded, his heart full. Exactly, James. We've spent years focusing on what we could achieve for ourselves. Now, it's about what we can achieve together. The company thrived, not just financially, but also in its reputation and culture. Employees felt inspired, clients took notice, and the shift in focus brought a renewed sense of purpose to everyone involved. Noah had managed to bring the values he discovered with Marcus and Celeste into his work, creating a legacy that would endure long after he was gone. One evening, as Noah sat on his porch with Rachel and Madison, he reflected on how much had changed. The quiet that surrounded them was comforting, filled with a peace he hadn't known before. Madison turned to him, her eyes bright with curiosity. Dad, do you think you'll keep visiting Marcus and Celeste? Noah smiled, looking off into the distance. Absolutely. They're family now, and family is something you don't let go of. Rachel squeezed his hand, a silent affirmation of the journey they had been through together. Noah had come to understand that his life's purpose was not defined by achievements or possessions, but by the impact he could have on others. As they sat together, the sky turned to twilight, casting a warm glow over the horizon. Noah felt a profound sense of gratitude for the people in his life, for the love they shared, and for the path that had led him to this moment. The journey wasn't just his. It was something he would carry forward with his family, with Marcus and Celeste, and with everyone whose life he had touched. He knew that the legacy he was leaving wasn't just in the community fund or the company's new values. It was in the kindness, compassion, and love that connected them all. Years later, Marcus stood on the stage at his college graduation, looking out at the crowd. His eyes found Noah and his family, who had come to support him on this important day. As he accepted his diploma, he felt a rush of gratitude for the man who had shown him what it meant to believe in someone. After the ceremony, Marcus found Noah in the crowd and embraced him tightly. "Thank you, Mr. Noah, for everything. I wouldn't be here without you." Noah smiled, his eyes misting with pride. "You did this, Marcus. I just gave you a little push. The rest was all you." They shared a knowing look, both understanding the bond they shared would never fade. Noah's legacy lived on not just in the lives he had touched, but in the spirit of generosity and purpose that he had instilled in Marcus. As they parted ways, Noah knew that his journey had come full circle. He had learned, loved, and left a mark that would echo far beyond his lifetime. And he walked away that day with a heart full of peace, knowing that he had found what he was searching for all along, a life filled with purpose, connection, and true generosity. If you enjoyed Noah's journey of kindness, connection, and self-discovery, please like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss more stories that bring meaning and inspiration. We have many more heartfelt narratives on the way, showing how small acts of kindness can lead to lasting change. Subscribe today and join us on a journey that reminds us all of what truly matters. Thank you for being here with us.